Cool.
But yeah, man. How's everything going?
Really well, really well. Just exciting times. It's been 13 years since I put out a record. So, the last record I did was 2010 with Atheist. So it's fun going through the cycle again.
Oh, absolutely, man. I got to tell you, this Till the Dirt Outside the Spiral album is one of my favorites of this year so far.
Thank you. Man, that's really nice to hear. I can't tell
Dude,
you. I
uh,
mean,
it's incredible, man. Like it ticks all the boxes for me. It's heavy as fuck. And it's blended with this almost 90s Seattle sound that I've never heard blended with death metal before. And it's very different. It's very different animal to Atheist as well. But I mean,
yeah.
it's more straightforward, would you say, and
Oh,
aggressive
oh,
as
yeah.
well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's much more listenable and accessible especially in a modern sense, I mean, but it's, I sometimes feel bad for really young people because they miss the 90s. There was a lot of really good shit in the 90s that happened,
Yes.
late 80s and 90s, and not just in extreme metal, but um, you know, I I uh, I just feel lucky because it just came so naturally and just automatically because I have such a love for old Soundgarden and old
Yes.
Alice in Chains and Mother Love Bone and all that shit, and also sort of desert metal, Caius and Hermano and stuff like that. So I always thought that those were equally as heavy, just in different ways. You know what I mean? As extreme metal. So it just made perfect sense for me to that it turned out like this. I mean, obviously, I didn't really plan on having a new album or a new band or anything like that. So it's this all kind of just came organically out of thin air, which was really nice because that's the way music kind of should happen.
Absolutely.
Instead of thinking about it or planning it or stuff like that. I didn't anticipate it at all. So it's all just found glory.
It's gold. It's gold.
Thank
Like
you.
as I said, mate, I love this album so much.
That means the world to me.
And I can't stop raving about it. As soon as I heard that single, I was like sending it to all my mates. Oh, and you guys got to hear this. But
Did they send you the whole record?
yeah, I've been
Oh,
cranking
cool.
it in the car on the way to work, brother.
Nice.
Very, very lucky. Very lucky. I
I
had it.
did a, I did an interview with some guys in India yesterday, and they had a really funny. They were really, super excited about the new record as well. And they were like, Atheist is like it's like Atheist and Till the Dirt are like brothers, but like Atheist is like the nerdy brother, and this is like Till the Dirt is like the party animal brother.
That's like the
And one guy was
perfect
like,
blend.
but they were saying it with like an indie, with their accent, and it was really, they meant it, in a way that I just thought was really funny. But it is kind of like that, they're definitely different,
That
but
is true. That is very, very true. But I think this record is made not only, for a great listening experience, but it's also absolutely filled with just pit smashes, dude. Like,
thank you.
it's going to be intense live. Like, was it written with that in mind, or was just to see the live reaction?
No, I mean, I can't tell you how not in mind any of this was. This is literally just an experiment with an artist and seclusion and a little bit of Jägermeister. And really, this is the results. I mean, I've always been, I write songs all the time, but when you change your mindset and you put yourself in a position you've never been in before, it automatically affects your art. And it literally, so when I tell you none of this was thought out at all, this is just it kept happening each night. I'd write a new song and I wrote like 25 songs for this album. So I have a lot of extra songs left over, which is not anything I've ever had the luxury of with Atheist at all. Atheist is pretty much everything we've ever written is on an album. So I was really just trying to bank all while I was in that headspace, and COVID, just not knowing what was going to happen, not being able to go out and see friends, not being able to play in a room with other musicians. It made some things happen that never ever would have happened before, and the end result is this Till the Dirt record. I mean, it's just yeah, I mean, and I couldn't set it up any better than that. You know what I mean? I can't. There's nothing like a pandemic. You know what I mean? Like, who knew that was coming? And And but that seclusion and that helplessness that you feel, if you're a painter or a musician, it reflects in your art. It should anyway.
Absolutely. Do you remember that moment you realized you were onto something different when you were just jamming on some riffs at home during that thing that happened?
What really happened with Outside the Spiral, the title track was the very first song I wrote, and I was like, ah, man, But I've been beat down by this industry for so long. You know what I mean? I've made good music to where it's hard to break away from what people know you from. And so I would make, even with Neurotica, which was a moderately successful band in the
Yes.
late '90s, early 2000s. The underground metal and the legacy of Atheist would never allow me to do anything. All I ever heard was, "What about Atheist? What about New Atheist?" And it was just constantly like, "Come on, let me paint in different colors for what I mean." I just never had the success or never had the opportunity for the success to do anything different. So that was the first thing that kind of came to my mind was, man, I really like this, and I sent it to some friends, and they really thought it was interesting and different. But I thought, here we go again. It's going to be just I'm going to get shot down again, it's just always, but I was really pleasantly surprised as time went on and I wrote a few more songs. I started getting unique feedback, not just, yeah, it sounds good, dude. But it was like, whoa, I don't know what the fuck this is, but keep doing it, man. Like from a lot of different people, that were, that I knew would be honest with me, about my direction. And I knew also it was going to make some noses wrinkle, in extreme metal. It's really hard to infuse stoner rock and grungy shit, into that mindset of the average extreme metal fan. But blast beats and harmonies, man, what's up?
Yep. Jeff's kiss, the most brutal way ever. But I'll tell you what, man, you got Scott Burns out of retirement to work on the thing as well. Like,
I think that was the point that I knew that, okay, this must be something. This might be, because he's the toughest critic there is, man. He makes, no problem telling you exactly how not important it is. And so I love him for that. I'm grateful for his honesty, because it's really hard to find, people to give you, even in live shows, when you play live and you go out and you go, "How does it sound?" Everybody goes, "Great." It's like, no, 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 no. You didn't have a good show, and people just never, you can never really get the honest shit. So
there's always that pause. There's when you've had a bad show and your mates go, "Yeah, it was good." I'm like, you paused, you fucking paused, you liar.
yeah.
That's how you tell. But
But thankfully, Scott was open to those '90s influences as well, and because he comes from that era as well, and it's just seemed, in hindsight, it seems to be landing at the perfect time, because I mean,
yeah,
really, music can't go any faster, it can't get any heavier. Everything is so pristine and perfect. This record is not. Like, I tracked this whole record in my house, like, you know what I mean, just sitting on a laptop, and tracked most all of this, and then the guests on the album also tracked their stuff at home. So this whole album was tracked without ever laying eyes on each other, and I think that's kind of a unique thing in itself, to really come up with a record that has some chemistry to it, without actually having it. You know what I mean? It wasn't actually a band that put it together. Because I wrote all these songs. I wrote all the initially on the demos that I have, which are very listenable demos. I hope to release someday if people care about this record down the line. But I used loops, and I cut up drum loops, and cut them into little pieces, and made them fit the way I wanted them to fit. And it was just like this liberating experience, to where I could write an entire song in a night, not have to really feel like I was hurting anybody's feelings in the band, or I didn't have to ask anybody's permission, or I didn't have to feel like, oh, okay, I can't write this song. Let me, everybody's riff has to get in the song. It becomes that when you're writing. Sometimes you make concessions, and so one of the funnest parts about this was not having to do that, and just have some drinks and smoke, and sit at home and just play. And then by 3 a.m, I would be done with the song, and then I would go to bed and wake up the next day. I would send it to Scott, and then wake up the next day and hear it in a really third person point of view. Like, just like when you go out to a bar and you have several drinks. I don't know if you drink it all, but we have a bunch of drinks, and you talk, and you're talking shit, and you say a lot of things you would never normally say, and act in a way that you never normally act. And if you're a happy drunk, then it's good, so it's kind of like that where you wake up the next day and you're like, God, I hope I didn't piss anybody off. I hope I didn't say anything. I hope I wasn't too bold. Or so when you transfer that to music, that's kind of what was happening with me. Was I would wake up every day and I'd go out in the car and ride around and listen to what I did last night, almost like forgetting all the what I had done until I put it on. So it was fun. And just that, and I don't know if I'll get that process back ever again, because how do you recreate a pandemic? But that's why I wrote so many songs, for fear of not ever being able to get that magic back. So I got another record behind it, and a good portion of a third one. So
That's so good. I can't wait, man. That's so good. Where do you
Thanks,
think
man.
these songs come from, though? I mean, during that, I know you said it was the pandemic. You were up until 3 a.m. having some having some drinks, but
Yeah.
creativity, man. Like I've spoken to heaps of bands about it, that it comes from somewhere. Like it's not just in your brain. That sometimes we, as creative types, we feel like we're channeling something else. Not to get all hippy dippy, but do you feel that in that creative space that you were drawing from something out there in space that was,
Yeah. I
even
mean,
that is?
like I said before, I really feel like it. When you turn 50, you start thinking, and something like a pandemic comes along, and you've been a smoker for 35 years. You think, oh shit, this might be it. I could get I could get this thing and be gone, because I lost 6 people. I lost 6 friends
I'm sorry.
during this thing, and so I was like, wow, and it was just this uncharted territory. So there was a feeling of, man, this thing, if I get this, I'm going to have a hard time beating it. My lungs will, you know what I mean? And that was a real kind of, so there was like an urgency again that I don't think I could recreate. So other than the normal places I get music from, which do come from smoking and drinking, you know what I mean? Those open different doors
Yes.
for me, all in moderation. You know what I mean? I'm not like, "Blah," fucking Motley Crue in it with a bottle of Jack, but I mean, having a couple of drinks just softens your edges
Yeah.
and allows you to be a little more dangerous than you would be, in your office job or something like that. So I liken it to that, and I also was really intrigued with the fact that I've never been able to record at home before. I'm not like a tech head at all, so someone gifted me a DAW, a recording scenario, and then I used the STL Tone Hub guitar plugins, and they were fucking amazing. Like my friend Mark Lewis is the one who turned me on to them.
Oh,
And
cool.
he had I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but they basically isolate all the great sounds from all their productions, and so I was able to use, like, I had like 1,000 different guitar sounds at my fingertips. So that for an artist also is like, oh my God, so depending on the guitar sound I would choose, it would lead me in a direction of a particular vibe for a song. So that in itself too was a really exciting, just being able to lay down 4 guitar tracks without having to argue with anybody else, like how to play it, or should it be a third harmony or a fifth, or should it be, what I mean? None of that. I was just like, I'd do a shot and then lay down all the guitars and sit and listen to it and go, no, let me try a different harmony. And it was perfect studio quality. And then I would go in my car and listen to it and crank it up, and it fucking sounded like an album. I was like, wow. And so when I first laid it on Scott Burns with my they're real drums, but they're a drummer played these loops, and I cut up all these loops. So he was like, wow, this drum sound is fucking amazing on the demo. And we really almost didn't have a real drummer come in and play the drums that I wrote, because the drums sounded so good on the demos. It was just like perfectly recorded, and we ended up wanting to make it a band, and Scott played a huge role in that as well, and helping me go from like, what do I do with these songs? I talked to Monty Connor, and he was like, yeah, nobody cares about a solo record, so don't waste these songs on a solo record, just make it a band. And so that's how the band came to be.
That's so cool. I love it. And man, you're such a diverse vocalist. And I think this album really shows your range from, the screaming right through to some incredible melodic stuff, man. I
Thank
think you challenge the ideals. We were saying it before of what death metal should be by injecting those elements into it. And I see that slowly happening, but you've still got the metal elitists that give that pushback, as you said, the wrinkling of noses. But
Yeah.
was that part of the plan after you sort of stumbled across the style, I guess, that you're like, I'm just gonna drive my vocals in that direction as well to see how far I can take it as well?
Yeah, I mean, again, most of the songs on the album happened in a really short span of time, like 5 weeks, and so I didn't really have a lot of time to think about it. For me, it felt normal. For me, it was anybody familiar with my old band Neurotica knows that I've been singing for a while, but I never found a home for it with Atheist, it just never made sense to try to do that. People have a lot of respect for the way that band is, and I do as well. And so I never wanted to use that. I've tried to create other bands. I had a band called Stones of Madness where I, showcased my singing voice. But again, the extreme metal world just kept me squashed down, and wasn't able to do anything with that band. But that was a great band and a really good album. But so this was the first time where I was able to combine the two, and that was the thing that excited me the most. I was like, wow, all in a 1 minute span, I went from the depths of hell to flying through the clouds, you know what I mean, and then right back to hell, you know what I mean. And I love that contrast, and then you throw in a little bit of old school 70s Sabbath groove, and there's something for everybody there. I mean, it's dipping in and out of somebody called it genre bending. I mean, it's definitely bending genres in a way that I don't know, man. I think the scene is hopefully ready for it. I mean, because it's just the needle hasn't moved in a minute. Well, there are some things there are some really exciting things I think that are coming out. I think Sleep Token is an amazing band. I think that's that's a glimpse into the future of what it can be like to have extreme. And now they're very theatrical, and I definitely like to see them be a little heavier as well. I mean, I'm afraid they're going to tip way off into la la theatrical land. But I mean, that new record is when they get heavy, it's heavy as shit. But I would just like to hear more heavy. But I mean, that kind of breaking away from the norms, I mean, I think has got to happen in order for this music to survive in another 40 years. And there's no harm in that, bringing in old, there's lots of bands that do it. Maybe they don't commit to it in a way that maybe they will in the future. But I'd love to see, I think Between the Buried and Me is a very interesting example of a band that doesn't mind zipping in and out of genres, or styles. And I love that shit, But if you can combine it in a way that it's actually at the end of the day, it's got to be a good song.
Yes.
Good song. Period. Fundamentally, a listenable, good 4 minute song, not a 7 minute epic. But, I like to get in and out and on with my life. I mean, it's like a conversation. If somebody's long winded in a conversation, you're like, all right, I gotta fucking go. Thanks, good talking to you, man. You know what I mean? It's like get in and get out with your point. You know what I mean? And move on to the next song. That's how I feel anyway. I've never been a fan of 7 to 10 minute songs. I have a few exceptions. The Art of Dying from Gojira is one of my exceptions.
Oh yeah.
But that's an epic fucking 9 minutes of there's not a boring moment in that 9 minutes, and that's key as well. So yeah, so I guess it's different for everybody, but for me, I don't like to over polish things. I mean, I used all the original vocals that I did with a handheld 58 on this album. I didn't do it with a fancy. I didn't even do it with, in a vocal booth. I did it in my living room with my 3-year-old sitting on the couch watching Paw Patrol.
That's
Literally, that's the really funny thing about this as well is I had a 3-year-old, and he may be asleep on the couch, and he was hearing me, as I had headphones on, singing all these vocals, and so I always call him my executive producer. His name is Thor. He's awesome, and so one day when he grows up, he'll hear these stories and just be like, yeah, I was there when Dad. At first he thought I was angry. He was, it was the first time he'd ever seen me sing. So
yeah.
I had to like discuss it with him so he understood. No, I'm not angry at all. This makes Daddy really happy. And so then he just every time he hear me screaming, he just found it to be, Dad's happy. So it was a lot of fun. Just
did he try and
believe it the way
emulate
you're
it?
not supposed to. What's that?
Did he try and is he because my son, he's seen my videos and stuff, and he comes out and does his death metal voice. When
No, not yet. He has not. Well, I got him on the mic a couple of times, but no, he hasn't gotten the bug yet, unfortunately. And boy, I'd be proud if he did. I would love it. He's got a guitar and everything, but
that's awesome.
I'm not going to push him. I think inadvertently, if he, there's enough of it around him, um, here. So hopefully they'll get into his soul.
Yeah,
But
oh
so far,
man.
no death metal's good. So you got a little singer on your hands then, huh?
I'm hoping so. He loves well, I've got three kids. I'm a grandpa, believe it or not. But
Yeah, me too.
my youngest, he's a little gaming. Sometimes he does the death metal voice just to humor me, but I'm hoping it's going to creep in. He's probably listening to me just behind that curtain right now. But but I'm hoping. I got my fingers crossed. But my other daughter, she plays violin and stuff. So the music is creeping into the family. So
Good.
I've got the fingers crossed, much like you.
Yeah, me too.
Now, you auditioned for Velvet Revolver, right? Is this
I
true?
did. hmm
That would
Yeah,
how
well, that I had so we've just done Ozfest with Neurotica, and that was on a really, you know, Vince McMahon for the WWE. It was his label, and they spent $500,000 on the band. And so when that fell apart, I went back home, and I was on the early days of the internet. I just got a computer, and I remember seeing on Blabbermouth that Slash was like looking for a real rock singer, and you know what I mean. And I called my manager at the time, and I was just like, hey man, can we send him the Neurotica record? I would love to take a shot at that. And he kind of scoffed at it a little bit. He was like, I mean, Slash, he's in LA. He's going to have like the cream of the crop choices. I was like, just send it, see what happens. So long story short, he got the Neurotica CD, and 3 days later, I get a call from Slash, and he was like, hey, well, at that time it was called The Project. And he's like, so I'll send you 3 songs and just do your thing and send it back. So I did. And him and Duff called me on a 3-way call and said, hey, come to LA. I was like, fucking A. So I felt like an imposter, really, because in my heart, I'm a death metal kid.
yeah, yeah.
So I was like, how the fuck how am I gonna get in a room with Guns N' Roses? Like this is gonna be so weird. So I didn't tell them anything about my past. I didn't mention anything about Atheist or any of that shit for fear of being pushed out. I just wanted to get my shot at it. So I show up in LA, and we did the 3 songs, and I could tell they kind of want to have a conversation, and so I went outside to smoke, and then Duff came out about 10 minutes later, and he's like, can you stay for the weekend? And I didn't have that kind of money to stay in LA for the whole weekend, so I called my manager, who was scoffing at me originally about that I wouldn't have a chance, and I made him pay for it. So he paid for me to stay out there over the weekend, and and so we went in and did another song together. So when I left there, I had a really, really good shot at that gig. And then obviously Weiland's wife and Duff's wife are friends. And
Mm.
so they got word that he was going to be available. And yeah, if I'm going to lose a gig to somebody, but that was real, real close. I mean, I had that was a fun experience. And, for like I said, a death metal kid, just to have the opportunity, it was the best audition that I never got.
Oh, dude. That's incredible. That's such an incredible story. And I
I got
mean,
a little line in Slash's book, even, like I got a sentence in his autobiography.
have you?
What's that? Yeah, yeah. It's on if you look in his book, there's because they went through that, man, they went through hell trying to find, they went through like 600 plus singers, a
Yeah.
TV show on VH1 trying to find somebody. And so by the time they got to me, I mean, according to him, I mean, it's de-emphasized how it really went out, but I don't blame him. He's not going to give me a full page, but he was like, yeah, we got this guy Kelly in Florida, and while he didn't get the gig, he was a step in the right direction. So that was like
Ah,
the short speak of it. So yeah, but again, I mean, how many times you get in a room with literally Guns N' Roses and write 3 songs, and so I treasured the time, and in my head too, I was just thinking, how am I going to explain this to underground metal people? I mean, it's going to be it's going to be tough. But
oh,
hey, you know what? That's the first time I ever felt like a real singer, like a real rock singer, when Slash, was like, "Hey, man, your vocals are great." And I was like, "What?" Because I mean, he's kind of like I don't know, he's the Keith Richards of our generation. I mean, he's
yes.
so iconic, and worked with so many great singers, and so I've always felt like a screamer that sings from time to time. You know what I mean? Never felt like a singer. And until he, sat on the couch and looked right in my face and told me that, I was like, ah. So I was like, cool, man. So I'll take that too. So sometimes it's not about getting the gig. It's just the experience,
Absolutely, absolutely, man. And I do have to ask, because I did see a little thing that you are working on a new Atheist record as well. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's how this started. I was writing Atheist verse, and then I tuned my guitar down to B, and all of a sudden I started writing all this crazy shit in B. But all the Atheist stuff is all written in 440E, so it automatically makes me write differently on guitar. And yeah, I have 3 hours worth of riffs and pieces and parts. I've just got to we got to clear up some business side of things so that we can move forward. But hopefully by October we'll have some news about the future, and have that ready by fall of next year. But we've got a lot of material and a great band. Can't wait to write a record with these guys. I mean, they're phenomenal. We just did a tour with Cynic in North America, and
Yeah.
it was incredible. The musicians I have in the band now are just I can't say enough about them. And they bring a youthful exuberance to it that just makes me feel 22 again. So we're gonna write some sick shit.
Man.
And as I've said, in doing press for this Till the Dirt, I need people to understand that I do understand the separation of church and state, between the two bands. And so you're not going to hear Till the Dirt. You're not going to hear my singing voice on any Atheist records. Atheist is about complexity and daring arrangements, and it's a completely different headspace. So, and I know the difference. So don't worry. I don't want to hear all the bullshit.
The blabbermouth. Yeah.
Yeah, man, he's gonna be trying to sing on the next Atheist album. No, I'm not. I'm gonna make the next Atheist album more atheist than ever.
We have a saying down here in Australia: "Calm your tits." So
I like it.
Yeah, but anyway, of course, one last question for you: the $1 million question. Australia, mate, are we going to see at some point? Come on, mate. Okay, I've got the beers for you.
I've been trying for 30 years, man, to get there. I mean, I think it's real close to happening next year, though, with Atheist. Hopefully, Till the Dirt will get invited as well. Three of the band members are the same members that'll be playing with me in Till the Dirt. So, promoters out there, get it done. Like, make the offer. You know what I mean? But I know at minimum, we'd love to come over and do this 30th anniversary set that we're doing right now, because it's the 30th anniversary of Elements this year. And man, we had a blazing 16-song set of just lots of deep cuts and songs that we had never played before. But we'd love to come over to Australia and New Zealand and maybe even Japan while we're over there, and because we never have, we've never been over there. So it's right at the top of our bucket list. So for many promoters out there that are listening, contact our management at EMG and make it happen. I want to come to Australia.
There's a couple of cats I know.
Man, I'm running out of time.
Oh man, let's do it.
I'll be 55 in 2 weeks.
You look damn good for 55, man. I'm just past 40, and I feel like I'm 100 years old. And I tell you what, we will see you in Brisbane. That's where I'll be. I'm up on that side of things.
I look forward to sharing a shot. Do they have Jägermeister in Australia?
Do we have Jägermeister in Australia, mate? Yeah, we fucking have. Yeah, we've got it all, mate. Even our good old Aussie beers. Just stay away from the 4X. That is my
drinking is a sport in Australia, I bet, huh?
Oh, it's just what we do. We wake up. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, brother, it's been really cool hanging out with you this morning. I hope we can do it sometime. And Till the Dirt.
Thank you for the early support on the record. Please tell some friends. And August 25th, it's out, everybody. I hope you go and get it on Nuclear Blast, and allow yourself to dive into a different kind of pool. You know what I mean? And give it a couple of spins, and I think you'll find it to be a very interesting record, man. It's certainly honest and organic. It's not contrived in any way, and that's kind of hard to come by these days. So thank you for the early love. I appreciate it.
Love it. Next week, go get it, people. We'll have all the links down here and on the website.
Thank you.
Kelly, enjoy your weekend, my man.
I will, my friend. Thank you.
No worries.
Cheers.
See you, brother.